The rain was relentless that morning, sharp, cold, and unforgiving. A thin man in a worn-out leather jacket rushed across the slippery sidewalk, clutching a little boy's hand as they dodged puddles. His name was Ethan Moore. His face, once full of youth and dreams, now carried the exhaustion of a man who had fought too many unseen battles. His 5-year-old son, Noah, skipped beside him, humming quietly, blissfully unaware of how close they were to losing everything. Ethan's wallet held exactly $9. Rent was overdue, his car had broken down again, and his last job application had gone unanswered. He ducked into a small cafe to escape the rain, a place he hadn't been in for years. The warm scent of roasted coffee and baked cinnamon rolls wrapped around him like a forgotten embrace. He ordered the cheapest drink on the menu, a plain black coffee, and handed Noah a single chocolate muffin to share. The boy's smile made the sacrifice worth it. Ethan watched him eat, feeling both pride and heartbreak. Backhand index pointing: right before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love that never fades, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us share more stories that touch hearts around the world. As Ethan sat there, watching the rain trace lines down the window, a familiar voice echoed behind him, a voice that froze time itself. "Excuse me, Ethan." It was soft, elegant, yet filled with disbelief. Slowly, he turned around. There she was, Isabella Carter, the woman he once loved more than anything in this world. Her eyes were the same deep hazel that had once promised forever, but now they carried a calm confidence, framed by a sleek black blazer and diamond earrings. She looked every inch of the success he used to dream about, but never reached. For a moment, Ethan couldn't speak. Memories flooded back: the late-night walks by the river, the plans they made under starlit skies, the tearful goodbye when he left town to care for his dying father. Back then, he promised he'd return. He never did. Life simply didn't let him. Isabella smiled, though her eyes softened with something like pity, or was it longing? "It's been a long time," she said, taking a seat. "How are you?" Ethan forced a polite smile, hiding the truth behind weary eyes. "Doing okay," he lied. "Just trying to keep things going for me and my boy." He motioned toward Noah, who was busy drawing something with a broken crayon. Isabella's gaze softened instantly. "He's adorable," she whispered. "He looks just like you." Inside, Ethan felt a familiar ache. He wondered what she saw: a once promising man now reduced to surviving day by day. He didn't tell her about the nights he stayed up counting coins, the odd jobs he took to pay bills, or how many times he'd swallowed his pride just to make ends meet. She didn't need to know how small his world had become. But Isabella wasn't the same girl who once believed in fairy tales. Over the years, she had built an empire, a technology company that made her one of the youngest female CEOs in the country. Her success story was on magazine covers, but Ethan had never known. He didn't have the luxury to read headlines. His life revolved around feeding his son and surviving the next month. They talked for a while, the conversation dipping between awkward laughter and nostalgia. Ethan avoided eye contact, afraid she might see the cracks in his pride. When Isabella asked where he was working, he hesitated. I do freelance repairs, mostly plumbing and electrical stuff," he said casually. But inside, his heart sank. He used to design software. He used to dream of inventing something that changed lives. After they parted, Isabella sat in her car for a long time, watching the rain blur her reflection. Something inside her ached, an old, unhealed corner of her heart. She remembered the boy who once gave her hope when she had nothing. She remembered how he believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. Now she had everything except the simplicity and warmth she once shared with him. That night, Ethan tucked Noah into bed in their small apartment. The roof leaked when it rained, the heater barely worked, and the fridge held more air than food. He sat by the window, thinking about Isabella, wondering if fate had brought her back just to remind him how far he'd fallen. Yet, he couldn't hate her for it. She'd earned her success. He was proud of her, even if it hurt. The next morning, while repairing a pipe at a client's house, Ethan got a call from an unknown number. It was Isabella. Her voice was warm but professional. She said her company was expanding and needed a maintenance contractor for their new offices. She wanted to give him the job. Ethan's pride fought back instantly. He didn't want charity. But the thought of securing a steady income for Noah outweighed his ego. He accepted. When he arrived at Carter Innovations a few days later, he was stunned. The building was glass and steel, towering against the skyline, a monument to her success. Employees in suits hurried past, the kind of people who once might have been his peers. Now, he was there to fix light fixtures and water leaks. Still, Isabella greeted him kindly, treating him not as a worker but as an old friend. Over the weeks, Ethan and Isabella found themselves talking again. Usually after hours when the office was quiet. She'd bring him coffee, and they'd talk about life, his son, her struggles in business, their lost time. There was laughter again, and something deeper, something both feared to name. Noah adored her too. She'd sometimes visit their apartment with groceries, claiming it was extra stock from her pantry. But Ethan knew better. Yet, he couldn't deny the comfort she brought. One evening, as they stood on the rooftop of her office, watching the city lights shimmer below, Ethan confessed what he'd held inside for years. He told her about losing his father, about the debts, the sleepless nights, and the loneliness of being both mom and dad to his boy. His voice trembled, but he didn't hide anymore. Isabella's eyes glistened with tears. She reached for his hand and whispered, "You've done more than most ever could. You didn't fail, Ethan. You survived." That night, for the first time in years, Ethan went home with a lighter heart. The weight of shame began to lift. As weeks turned into months, Ethan's business began to grow thanks to referrals from Carter Innovations. He worked hard, never taking advantage of Isabella's kindness. She admired his resilience, and he admired her grace. The bond they once lost began to rebuild, not out of desperation, but out of mutual respect and love rediscovered in the ruins of time. One cold December evening, Isabella invited Ethan and Noah to her company's Christmas gala. Ethan hesitated. He didn't own a suit that fit, but she insisted. When they arrived, every eye turned to them. Isabella walked over in an elegant silver gown and took Ethan's hand in front of everyone. "Everyone," she said softly, "this is Ethan Moore, the man who taught me to believe in myself before the world ever did." The room fell silent. Ethan stood frozen, overwhelmed. For the first time, he didn't feel invisible. That night, as snow fell outside the grand ballroom, Ethan realized something. Life had a way of circling back, of healing what time had broken. Isabella wasn't just his first love. She had become his second chance. Months later, she offered to invest in his small business, turning it into a full-fledged repair and renovation company. At first, he resisted, but she said something that stayed with him forever. "You helped build me when I was nothing. Let me help rebuild you now." Together, they created something meaningful, not just a business, but a new chapter of life. By spring, Ethan and Noah moved into a small house on the edge of town. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs. Isabella visited often, her laughter filling the rooms that once echoed with silence. One evening, while Noah chased fireflies in the yard, Isabella turned to Ethan and said quietly, "You know, sometimes we lose everything to find what really matters." He smiled, taking her hand, and sometimes, he replied, we find our way back to the ones who never truly left. The sun dipped behind the hills, bathing the world in gold. Two souls once broken by time had finally found their peace. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let's remind the world that love, resilience, and kindness still exist and that second chances are real. Speech balloon. Before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe love can find its way back after years apart?